Years later, on a late-night talk show, the host leaned in with a grin. "Dean, I heard you used to be a boxer. How many fights did you win?" Dean Martin smiled. That famous lazy smile, the one that made women weak and men jealous. He swirled the whiskey in his glass, or what everyone assumed was whiskey. "I won all but 11. The host paused, confused. "How many fights did you have?" "A dozen." The audience erupted. Perfect timing. Classic Dean. But nobody saw what was underneath the joke. Those 11 losses weren't just numbers on a record. They were carved into his body. A nose that had been broken and reset. A thin white scar above the lip that makeup could never fully hide. Knuckles that bent at strange angles. Bones that had shattered and healed wrong. And there was something else. Something no surgeon could fix. The memory of a 15-year-old boy lying on a concrete floor, drowning in his own blood, while 50 men screamed for him to stay down. This isn't the story of Dean Martin. This is the story of Kid Crochet. The face that got destroyed before it became the most handsome face in Hollywood. But to understand Kid Crochet, you first have to understand Steubenville, and the Crocetti family, and what it meant to be Italian in America during the Great Depression. Steubenville, Ohio. 1932. A small steel town on the banks of the Ohio River, 45 minutes from Pittsburgh. The air was thick with soot from the factories. Every street smelled like iron and sweat and desperation. The Depression had swallowed America whole. No jobs, no money, no hope. But Steubenville had something else. Illegal gambling halls. More than Las Vegas would ever have. And beneath those halls, in the basements, bare-knuckle boxing matches, $5 a fight. Winner takes all. Loser pays his own hospital bill. The Crocetti family lived in a small house on the wrong side of town. Guy Crocetti, the father, had immigrated from Montesilvano, a small village in Italy. He was a barber, quiet, proud. He spoke broken English and carried himself like a man who expected nothing from this country but was determined to take what he could. Angela, the mother, kept the house together, kept the faith, kept the family alive. And there was Dino, born June 7, 1917, the second son. Here's the detail that nobody talks about. Dino Paul Crocetti didn't speak a single word of English until he was 5 years old. The Crocetti home was entirely Italian. The language, the food, the prayers, the arguments, everything. When Dino walked into Grant Elementary School on his first day, he understood nothing, not a single word. The teacher spoke, the children laughed. Dino smiled, because smiling was universal. At recess, he learned the truth. They weren't laughing with him, they were laughing at him. "Wop, Dago, greaser, go back to Italy, you dirty wop." He took his first punch that day, 5 years old, bloody nose, torn shirt. He came home crying. His mother held him. His father said nothing. The next day he went back, and the day after that, and the day after that. For 10 years, the same lesson. Every single day, either you get beaten, or you beat them first. Dino chose to be the one doing the beating. One night, after another fight, another black eye, another torn shirt, Guy took his son to the barber shop. It was after hours. The shop was dark except for a single lamp. The smell of cologne and shaving cream hung in the air. Guy sat Dino in the chair, the big leather chair where customers sat. He wet a towel, pressed it against his son's swollen eye. "Does it hurt?" "No. A lie. It hurt like hell." "Good, because this won't be the last time." Dino looked at his father in the mirror, waiting for an explanation. Guy put down the towel. He leaned against the counter. His voice was quiet, measured. The voice of a man who had learned to swallow his rage a long time ago. "Listen to me, Figlio. In this country nobody cares about us. We are Italian. We are poor. We have accents. They look at us like we are animals, like we are less than human." He paused. "Nobody is going to give us anything. Not a job, not respect, not a future. We have to take everything, or we die with nothing." He looked at his son. "Which one are you going to be?" Dino didn't answer, but the next week he walked into a boxing gym. Kid Crochet. That was the name he chose for himself. Crocetti became Crochet. One letter changed, but that single letter changed everything. Kid Crochet was American. Kid Crochet wasn't afraid. Kid Crochet was unbreakable. All lies, of course. Dino was terrified. Before every fight he vomited in the corner. His hands shook so bad he could barely make a fist. His legs felt like water, but he climbed into that ring anyway. The basement smelled like blood. That's the first thing you noticed. Before the cigarettes, before the cheap whiskey, before the sweat of 50 men packed into a space meant for 20. Blood, old blood, soaked into the concrete floor, staining the ropes, You could taste it in the air, metallic, sharp. A single bare bulb hung from the ceiling, swinging slowly. The light flickered over the makeshift ring, just a square of concrete surrounded by frayed ropes. Shadows danced on the walls like demons. The crowd pressed close. Steelworkers, gamblers, drunks, men with nothing to lose, betting money they didn't have on boys they didn't know. Kill him. Get up, you wop bastard. Stay down. The noise was deafening, but Dino had learned to block it out. He stood in his corner, 15 years old, skinny, scared. His hands were wrapped in old rags, not proper tape. He couldn't afford tape. That's the detail nobody mentions. Professional boxers wrap their hands with tape and padding. It protects the small bones, keeps the knuckles from shattering. Dino couldn't afford tape. Every punch he threw, bone cracked against bone. Every time he connected, he felt his own fingers breaking, but he kept swinging. The old man in his corner watched, a former boxer himself, nose crooked from too many breaks, eyes like stones, hands like leather. The first time he saw Dino, he laughed. This kid won't last 2 rounds. He was wrong. Dino lasted. Every single time. He couldn't win, not at first, but he lasted. And that, the old man said, was more important than winning. Talent can be taught, toughness can't. Either you have it or you don't. He looked at Dino with something like respect. This kid has it. 5th fight. First victory. 3rd round. His opponent went down hard. The referee grabbed Dino's wrist and raised it high. Kid, kid, crowd chanted. Money changed hands. Someone slapped his back. $5 pressed into his palm. Dino thought, this is it. Now I'll win every time. He was wrong. 6th fight. Loss. Broken finger. 7th fight. Loss. Cracked rib. 8th fight. Loss. Split eyebrow. 12 stitches. 9th fight. Loss. His nose shattered. Blood everywhere. He looked in the mirror after that one. Didn't recognize himself. The nose was crooked. The lip was scarred. The eyes were swollen shut. He thought, who's going to hire this face to sing? He thought, who's going to let these hands touch a piano? He thought, who's going to love this? But the next week, he was back in that basement. Because $5 was $5, and there was no other choice. And then came that night. The night nobody expected. This was the moment. Steubenville. Another basement. Another illegal fight. Past midnight. Police raid could come any second. The air was poison. Smoke, sweat, blood, whiskey, fear. Dino stood in his corner. 17 years old now. 2 years of fighting. 2 years of losing more than he won. His opponent was bigger, heavier, older. A man, not a boy. Arms like tree trunks. Eyes like a shark. The old man leaned close. His breath was tobacco and cheap liquor. Kid, listen to me. This guy will kill you. I've seen him fight. He doesn't stop. Walk away. No money, but you keep your life. Dino didn't answer. The gong rang. 1st round. The punches came fast. Too fast to count. Dino covered up, tucked his chin, let his arms absorb the damage. His right eye started swelling shut. The crowd screamed. 2nd round. Dino started swinging back. A few landed. He felt the man's head snap, felt the impact travel up his arm. But for every punch he threw, he took 3. His nose was bleeding again. The taste of iron filled his mouth. His vision was starting to blur. 3rd round. The punch came from nowhere. Right hook, clean on the jaw. The world spun. Dino was on the ground. The concrete was cold, hard. His ears were ringing. His vision was nothing but shapes and shadows. The count started. 1, 2, 3. The ceiling swam above him. The bare bulb swayed like a pendulum. 4, 5, 6. He thought, I want to stay here. On the ground, in the dark. Let it end. Please, let it end. 7. And then he saw a face. In the crowd. Just beyond the ropes. Familiar. His father. Guy Crocetti. The barber. The immigrant. The man who never came to fights. He was here, watching. 8. What was on his father's face? Fear? Shame? Pride? Anger? No, nothing. Just watching. Waiting. To see what his son would do. Something spoke inside Dino. A voice he didn't recognize. Get up. He couldn't hear it. The ringing was too loud. Get up. Louder now. His own voice. Or maybe his father's. He couldn't tell anymore. His palms pressed against the concrete. His arms shook. His legs screamed. But he pushed. 9. He was standing. The fight went the distance. Dino lost. Judge's decision. Unanimous. But when the final bell rang, he was on his feet. Bloody. Broken. Barely conscious. But standing. After the fight, Guy approached the corner. He looked at his son's face, the broken nose, the split lip, the eyes swollen completely shut. He looked at his son's hands, the torn knuckles, the crooked fingers. He said nothing. Then he turned and walked out. Not a single word. But the next morning, in his barber shop, Guy hung a photograph on the mirror. Dino, in boxing stance, fists raised. That photograph stayed there for 30 years, until the day Guy died. Years later, Dino would understand. His father hadn't come to watch him win. He came to watch him get up. 1 year later, New York City. Dino had stopped fighting professionally, but he was still fighting, just differently now. A tiny apartment in a bad neighborhood. 2 beds, 1 bathroom, peeling wallpaper, cockroaches in the kitchen, rent $20 a month. His roommate, Sonny King, another young Italian, another dreamer. Both of them wanted to be singers. Both of them were broke. How much is rent? 20. How much do we have? 5. Dino looked out the window at the gray New York sky, then back at Sonny. Tomorrow night, leave the door unlocked. The next night, 15 men crowded into that tiny apartment. Each one paid $5 at the door. In the middle of the room, Dino and Sonny. No gloves, no tape, no referee, no rules. Fight until someone drops. That night, Dino knocked out his best friend. $10, split between them. Then he helped Sonny off the floor. They bought dinner together, ate in silence, because there was nobody else. They only had each other. Decades later, Sonny would tell the story. We beat each other bloody in that apartment, week after week, just to survive, just to make rent, just to eat. He paused, his eyes distant. But after every fight, we sat together. Sometimes we didn't even talk. We just sat, because we understood something. The enemy was outside. The world was trying to crush us. We were all each other had. Another pause. Dean never stayed down. Not in the ring. Not on the stage. Not in life. Booed. He got up. Failed. He got up. Knocked down. He got up. Sonny smiled. That ring never left him. It's still inside him. Every night. Only now he's holding a microphone instead of making a fist. 1965, The Dean Martin Show. The lights were warm and golden. The band was tight. The audience was packed with celebrities and socialites. Dean stood center stage in his perfectly tailored tuxedo, holding his trademark glass. That famous lazy smile, those half-closed eyes. The king of cool. His guest that night, Sonny King. They exchanged a look. Just a moment. The audience didn't notice, but they both knew what they were thinking. That apartment. Those fights. The taste of blood and the sound of bones cracking. Dean made a joke. Sonny, I'd punch you for old time's sake, but these hands are too valuable now. The audience laughed, but Dean glanced down at his hands, the hands holding the microphone. The knuckles were still crooked. The bones had never healed right. If you looked closely, and nobody ever did, you could see where they had broken and fused back together at wrong angles. Those hands had been sold for $5 a fight. Now they were worth millions, but the marks were still there, would always be there. The ring taught Dean Martin one thing. Not how to box, not how to throw a punch, not even how to win, how to get up. After every fall, after every loss, after every rejection, after every "we don't want you and you'll never make it," and go back to where you came from. 12 fights, 11 losses. But he showed up for the 12th. That's the secret of Dean Martin. Not the voice, not the face, not the charm. Endurance. The ability to take the punch, to taste your own blood, to hear the count, and to stand up anyway. They can knock you down 100 times, but if you get up 101, you win. This is Dean Martin, Untold Stories. If you've ever been knocked down and found the strength to get back up, hit that like button. If you believe legends deserve to be remembered as human beings, not just icons, hit that subscribe button. Share this with someone who needs a reminder. It's not about how many times you fall. It's about getting up one more time. In our next video, we're going to 1943, New York City, the Rio Bamba nightclub. Frank Sinatra has just destroyed the stage. Standing ovation, women screaming, and then a young Italian kid walks up to the microphone. His name is Dean Martin. And that night, he bombs. Completely bombs. The audience goes cold, but backstage Sinatra walks over to him and says something that changes everything. Make sure you're subscribed. Until then, discover Dino, one untold story at a time.